Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40. Created and hosted by me, journalist and author Sam Baker. My guest today is the international bestseller, Dorothy Koomson. She started young. She had her first stab at writing a book at 13, and like me, worked on Just 17, amongst many other magazines, before actually publishing her first novel at 30. She has now written 16 Sunday Times bestsellers and is the biggest selling black author of adult fiction in the UK. Not bad for a woman whose debut novel was turned down for, amongst other things, having a black character, but not being about the black experience.
I've never met another black person who has exactly the same experiences as me, so I was writing about a character, a made-up character, and you'd see lots of other people writing made-up characters, and that's apparently a human experience.
Her latest, I Know What You've Done, is just out in paperback and has been described as desperate Housewives, but darker. It's also completely stuffed with brilliant parts for midlife women. ITV, I'm looking at you. Dorothy joined me from Brighton to talk about feeling like you're enough, 80s TV crushes, the gynae and thyroid hell that gave her constant hot flushes, facing up to grey pubic hair. It's a thing, people. Sorry. And why there's still a lot of work to do when it comes to telling all women's stories. Oh, and why we need to bring back Golden Girls. I'm here for that. And I should say thank you for coming on The Shift.
Oh, no, thank you. Thank you for inviting me. You've been doing it for ages. It's really good.
It feels like ages, but we're only in our second year.
Okay. It's because you do so many episodes and so many good quality episodes. I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Oh, thanks. It's because I love nosing into people's lives. So I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'll do some more. I started off doing series of 6 and now they're 10 because I just,
Yeah.
And also, I can't say no.
I know, that's the thing, isn't it? Saying no to people. Yeah. I'm getting better at that.
Yeah. Is that an age thing, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's an age thing and a realising you can't do everything thing as well. There's all these things that people keep asking me to do and I keep wanting to go, yay! And I think, well, when are you going to do that? And you really can't do it, can you? You're just wiping yourself out and you've got to be careful about that, haven't you? Wiping yourself out.
Yeah, totally.
I don't say no, just no, outright no. I keep trying to practice that, but I always end up going, well, I'll see. And then later on going, I can't. But I don't like disappointing people. That's the problem. So yeah, I've never liked that. I suppose I don't suppose anybody likes disappointing other people, do you?
I think some people don't care though.
I know. I remember saying towards the end of last year, I'm going to go into this year just making statements with confidence and not caring. I love the statements that people make, definitive statements about things. It's like, but that's completely wrong. But they don't seem to care. So I just thought maybe I should try that energy as well.
I feel like that about Twitter. Every time I go on Twitter, I stay for a bit and then I just think I haven't got that Twitter energy. I haven't got that, this is what I think.
Oh, no. I know.
Come for me. I don't care.
Well, this is it. I spend a lot of time typing things and then going, yeah, don't say that. Delete. Even though I know I'm right. I just think I don't want to bring that to my door, really.
When you're writing the book, do you think about the reader or do you just write?
I do think about the reader in the sense of I need to tell the story. So I will think, if I was a reader picking this up, I mean, that's always my premise with writing a book. It's a book that I would want to read. And if I was a reader picking this up and I've spent my hard-earned $8.99, I've spent, for some people, that's 2 hours work or whatever amount of work, would I be satisfied by the end of the story? I might not like the story, but if I know that the person spent a lot of time and energy getting the story right. So I do think about the reader in that respect, if that makes sense. I do think about the person who is on the other end of the process. Not if they're going to like it, because not everybody likes everything you write, and that's an unfortunate thing, and that's something you have to get used to, I think, realising that not everybody's going to like everything that you produce. But none of them, whether they like it or not, can say she didn't put an effort into it. She didn't try her hardest. She didn't try and tell the best story. She didn't show up with her best writing, because that's not true. And I know it's not true. So if someone does say that about my book, I'll think, you're wrong. One of my friends, when she read one of my books for the first time, she came up to me and my husband and she was like, I can't even look in your face now. The sex scenes were terrible. I can't look at you. I just keep imagining you and you together. So I don't think about people reading sex scenes either. No,
because I was just thinking when I was reading I Know What You've Done, I was thinking, oh, have the neighbours read this?
Oh God, do you know what? One of my neighbours has. She really enjoyed it. She said she thought it was quite funny, the setting, the fact that it was about neighbours. I don't know, but my neighbours are lovely. I have to keep saying that my neighbours are really lovely, and they wouldn't do anything like what's in my book. It's all made up from other people and other areas. But I do know a few people I know from the area. They read everything I write because they knew who I was before I moved into the area. And so I remember talking about something and they went, well, when you read The Ice Cream Girls, and I was like, how do you know who I am? And they were like, yeah, we just knew.
Do you like that, or is it weird?
It is weird because it's not like being on telly or stuff. People don't recognise you in the street, do they? But they recognise your name.
Yeah, I do very occasionally have people come up to me in the street, very occasionally. And I always feel like I've done something wrong.
Yeah.
It kind of always takes me back to that growing up in a small town where everybody knew your business,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and you kind of like, you know that your mum's going to find out, your dad's going to find out, or your aunt and uncle are going to find out what you did and they'll come up to you in the street and go, I know who you are and I know what you've done. Like the book. I do remember one time on publication day, I met my editor in London and we were walking back to the office or to the train station for me. And this lady came up to me, she went, are you Dorothy Koomson? And I was like, maybe. I might be. And she was like, I saw your face and I've seen your face on the internet and I love your books and my cousin loves your books. And so she wanted the selfie. It was really weird because I said to my editor, if you weren't here, I was convinced myself that hadn't happened. I'd convinced myself that I'd imagined the whole thing. It's like I imagine a lot of things. Like I was convinced for years that I'd imagined that my high school was next door to Bros. That Bros moved in next door to my all-girls high school. I convinced myself I'd imagined that, and then until somebody said to me, do you remember when Bros moved in next door? And I was like, oh, so I didn't imagine.
It really did happen.
Yeah. I keep thinking that things that have happened, I've imagined, actually.
Yes, it's like your imagination's great, but it's not that great.
Well, I know. It's quite random, isn't it, to think of Bros. I wasn't a Brossette or anything, but I knew who they were, obviously.
She says hastily.
Oh, yeah. No, I wasn't. All my friends were. They all loved those people. But I just found it really weird that somebody convinced the biggest boy band to move in next door to a girls' school.
Yeah, what was it? Just we're going to go off on a right tangent now, but so was it just an ordinary house? Was it like some mega building that had been done
up? It was a really nice building. It was a really nice big building, and it had grounds and stuff. And so we had assembly pretty much every week. They'll say, "Can you stay off their grounds, their land?" Because girls just going in and jumping over the fence and creeping into their house.
Oh my God, that's such bad planning. Their agent should have really thought about that.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know who convinced them to actually buy that house. It's weird, isn't it?
Just weren't thinking straight. Who were you into if you weren't a Brossette?
Oh, I loved TV and I loved books. I love reading books. I read so many. And I used to love TV and film. So, yeah, that was what I was into. I was into reading lots of detective stories and Jackie Collins and Sidney Sheldon, Sweet Valley High, all of those things. I used to go to the library almost every day after school and just devour books. And so it's funny, actually, because I will see something and I'll go, oh, I read that. I remember reading that when I was little. I don't remember a lot of what happens. I do remember the plots of a lot of things, but I used to read a lot and I used to watch telly a lot. I loved the A-Team. Those were my favourites. So was Miami Vice.
So is that who was on your bedroom wall?
Oh, I had all sorts of people on my bedroom wall. I can't even tell you now because it's just too cringy.
Oh, go on. God. I will if you will.
Well, I used to have the A-Team and I used to have Miami Vice people. They used to have, the kid with all the TV stuff. So I used to cut the things out. One of my favourite programmes ever was Knight Rider, but not David Hasselhoff. I love the car. So I used to cut out pictures of the car and not David Hasselhoff. It's weird, actually, because I didn't have that obsessive thing about people like David Hasselhoff, the star of the show. I always quite liked the sidekick people.
But the car was a much better character anyway.
That was great, wasn't it? The whole premise of the show is brilliant. I mean, they were showing them on TV again recently and watching them over. And I was just laughing to myself at how brilliant they were. They were so unself-conscious and so over the top. And, and Michael had to be in pretty much every scene, didn't he? Everything had to happen to him. Everything. I remember at the time thinking, whenever he got involved with a woman, I kept thinking, oh, don't do that, love. You're going to end up dead. And they almost always did, didn't they? And that's kind of like, it's quite sad now looking back, sort of thinking how disposable the love interests were in most things. And I did notice as a child that you fall in love with the main character and that's it. It's not great, is it?
Yeah, it's like Bond is the most extreme version of that, really, wasn't it? But then I saw some reviews of the most recent Bond film, which I absolutely loved, basically saying they'd spoiled it because he'd got all emotional.
Oh, how dare he? How dare he?
Yeah.
How dare he feel? Oh, it does make you laugh, doesn't it? When people kind of put onto something that you didn't see that was there, that you just didn't notice or didn't think was a problem.
Yeah, it's just not your view. I suppose I never watched Bond for the slaughtered love interest.
No.
There were always many.
I know. It's funny, isn't it? You do kind of go, yeah, don't get involved with him. Just kind of come away. It's not worth it.
Do you feel like the general narrative is changing?
I don't know if it's changing or it's smooth focus. I don't know. I suppose that's what I'm trying to say. At the moment, I'm reading books for the Women's Prize. And
yes, congratulations. The best job in the world.
It's great, isn't it? It's great. And as you know, you get to read lots and lots of books. And you kind of see that there's a theme running through a lot of the books. You don't realise until you get them all in together and then you kind of read them one after the other. You kind of go, oh, actually, there's a theme running through these. And some of them better than others. And so the narrative doesn't change. It's just at certain times there's more emphasis on different things, I think. And some people do it better and some people can write as it is, without diminishing other people, I think. I think more people are conscious of the need to be better, if that makes sense, to behave better, to write better, to make their words and their stories better, in that it doesn't diminish other people. It is possible to write stories and stuff, and to write stories that are enjoyable and fun and edgy and push boundaries without diminishing whole groups of people.
I mean, you've been doing that your entire writing career. Do you feel like it took you a long time to get the credit for that? Because you've written, what, 18?
Yeah, I'm writing book 18 at the moment, yes. Have I got credit at the moment? I don't know. I don't sit around feeling resentful about anything, I have to say. I just do what I do, and I kind of have to do what I do because I have to write stories. I have to write short stories and novellas or whatever, and it's something that I'm compelled to do and I love doing. But also, it was nice to see my stuff out there and to see people appreciating that there are stories that deviate from what became the norm. And the norm was very much London-focused commercial stories I'm talking about, because I write commercial fiction, and I have no problem saying that. I don't write literary books, and I know that a lot of people look down on commercial books, but I love reading them and I love writing them.
Well, in the book world, but not like in the world.
Books written by women are looked down on in the world. You know, they're kind of diminished, and you'll see a man who writes a very similar book a woman would write in the commercial world, as it would
get longlisted for the Booker Prize.
Yeah, no, and it gets lots of applause and praise about how it's done this, and this. And, you know, I could throw a stone out my window and hit 5 other women authors who've done something very similar, possibly better, and they wouldn't get half the praise and applause. Because that must have happened to you as well in your working life as well. I saw a cartoon the other day where there was a table full of men and one woman, and the man said, "Oh, Miss Timmons," or whatever it was, "that's a very good idea. Would one of the men like to suggest it now?"
Yes, I've seen that cartoon.
Yeah. And
exactly.
And that happens a lot to us as women and to black people of colour. We're almost used to being dismissed and overlooked. Doesn't mean it's right or that we're happy about it or we kind of accept it, but it is one of those things. And I suppose as time's gone on, it's been nice to see other people coming up, as it were, and seeing other people on the bestseller lists and short lists or prizes that aren't just exclusively literary books and telling ordinary stories. It's nice to see the world opening up. I mean, let's not pretend it's anywhere near parity or even close to where it should be, but it's better. I hope it continues to get better. I hope it's not, because it comes in cycles. You see it all the time. You see people that have an interest in this, and it becomes almost like a genre. Black people or people of colour writing commercial books, romance books, or this. It becomes, oh, look, there's a genre of people who aren't white writing stuff. And we'll focus on that for a while. And we won't focus on it to the point where we push the books as much as we can. We'll just go, oh, yes, look who we're publishing, and then not put anything behind it. And then, oh, it doesn't sell. Yeah, let's forget about that genre, even though it's not a genre.
Just keep going until it's just integrated into all the genres.
Yeah, until everyone's writing everything. Yeah.
I suppose that does worry me a bit, and it's exactly the same with the conversation on menopause. 2 years ago you couldn't sell a book on menopause. Now you can't move for them, and then it will be gone.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's what worries me.
It's so funny, isn't it, the whole menopause thing, because I know so many people who've been talking about it for a long time, particularly the ones who went into early menopause because of various health issues or chemotherapy or whatever. And now, they're forgotten in that conversation, the conversation they were trying to start years ago, and now it's everywhere. I don't know, maybe because it's affecting them now. I didn't realise that menopause kind of had so many different effects on you. I thought it was just your period stopped and
yeah, you might have had a hot flush.
Yeah, well, exactly. But see, I've got a thyroid condition, so I've had hot flushes for a long time.
Oh God, poor thing.
Yeah, it took me ages for the doctors to take me seriously. I've had hot flushes and stuff for years and years, and then it wasn't recently until I spoke to a gynecologist about something else, and she said, "Oh, you've probably been in perimenopause for 10, 15 years. I was like,
"What?
Really?" And she said, "Yeah." I was like, "Oh, okay." She said that would explain a lot of things because, I've never had easy periods. And I thought as I get older, it would sort itself out, and it's not really. It's kind of just getting worse, isn't it?
Like when you said it took you ages for the doctors to take you seriously. And then, you saw a gynecologist and she just said, "Oh, that will explain that."
Yeah.
And it's just like, where do you even go with that? Where do you even start?
I know. Well, for me, it's been a long old slog. I was very fortunate in that I could afford to eventually go and pay to see a endocrinologist. And I went to one appointment with him and took all my blood test results. I'd been to see one before. I'd saved up and gone to see one before, and he basically sat there and patronised me. He asked me what I did, and I said I wrote books, and then he told me all about the books he'd written.
Oh, God.
And then sent me away with a flea in my ear, basically.
And you paid for that
pleasure? I paid for that pleasure, yeah. I had to travel to Eastbourne, which is quite far away from here, from Brighton, for the pleasure of it. And so I kind of gave up, and my doctor was just having none of it, even though the test results had shown that my thyroid was on its way out. So I went to see this guy, and I took all the test results with him. I'd had all the blood test results I'd had over the years, and he sat there and he went through them all, and he said to me, "So have you seen anybody about this?" And I said, "Well, yes." And he said, "And they still didn't do anything with these blood test results?" I said, "Yeah." And he went, "Okay. Well, usually we treat people if they have 2 or 3 of these signs, and you've got all 3, so you probably should have been on medication a while back." She said, "We'll try you on this." And so I almost burst into tears. In fact, I did burst into tears.
Of relief.
Absolute relief that somebody was taking me seriously. Every morning I would get up, drag myself out of bed. My whole body hurt. I couldn't step on my feet. The bottom of my feet hurt.
Oh, my God.
And, your joints hurt. You look terrible. You look exhausted all the time. You're cold. So many symptoms. And I remember trying to explain this to the doctor, and they were having none of it. They were just not interested.
Did the gynecologist think that had triggered your perimenopause, or it just kind of blurred into one, effectively?
It kind of blurred into one, and I saw her for a very specific thing. I've got all of it, fibroids and all that business. So I saw her about that.
Oh, God, yeah.
So she, oh, you got fibroids as well?
Not anymore, but yeah, I did. That was how I got help for perimenopause, because I was seeing the gynecologist about bleeding buckets of blood every 6-8 weeks.
I know. Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? The last time I went for a scan. It had shrunk a little bit, but I had everything else. I had endometriosis, fibroids, polyps, polycystic ovaries. It's like a party in my body. Everyone's invited.
I mean, it's like we're laughing, but the truth is, this is my experience, it's your experience. I hear this kind of thing so often. And like you said, it's like you were lucky because you could afford to pay to see an expert. And I was the same, at the time that I finally got it dealt with, I was editing Red. I had a health editor who could say, "Oh, this gynecologist is good. Why don't you go and see her?" But also I could afford to pay for it. And it's like so many people aren't in that situation. Like you said, for some people buying a book is 2 hours' wages.
Yes, exactly. And we mustn't forget that. Like I say, I was very fortunate I was able to afford that.
It's important to say that when we criticise, and I do often criticise the NHS response to menopause, it's like the NHS is brilliant.
Yes, absolutely.
No two ways about it. It's just that doctors and nurses are generally not trained.
No.
In menopause, and the number of people that you come across with medical training who don't know about menopause is really pretty shocking.
Yeah, absolutely. But also, the statistics on Black mothers who die in childbirth, or it's shocking, and no one wants to really do anything about it. I love the NHS for being there and for being in existence, but But I also feel like I'm able to criticize it for that. And it's like, anybody else, I think, in your life, you can love them, but you can still criticize them, or you can still,
That's true.
you can still explain to them how they can improve. I mean, apart from me, obviously, because I'm perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah. How has your experience of aging been so far? You're 50, aren't you?
I'm just 50, yes.
How is it?
Oh, it's good, I suppose, because you're still here, another year, another cycle, another turn around the sun, and you're still here, aren't you? And that's always good in my book. It's weird, actually, because I remember recently saying to someone, one of the good things about the pandemic, if I'm allowed to say the P word, is I don't see people as much. And in the sense of, as I've got older, I've got worse and worse with just saying whatever's in my head. And sometimes you shouldn't say things in polite company. You shouldn't really. You should kind of keep it in. I look back on when I was younger, I had so much confidence, and I would just write to people and go, "Oh, do you have a job?" And then that kind of gets beaten out of you, doesn't it? As time goes on, you get lots of rejections, and you get people trying to hold you back, and it balances itself out. But you have to keep going. With me, as I've said more than once, I was rejected so many times for my books. So many people said no to my first book, which was The Cupid Effect. And
did they give you a reason?
Oh yeah, lots of reasons. Lots of the reasons. It was like it was about a black woman, but not the black experience. There was loads of things. A lot of them just weren't interested, but a lot of people who did give feedback were quite nasty with it.
So you were allowed to write a black character. I use the word allowed advisedly, as long as that black character was having a black experience, not just a life experience.
I don't know what the black experience is because, I've never met another black person who has exactly the same experiences as me. So I was writing about a character, a made-up character. And you'd see lots of other people writing made-up characters, and that's apparently the human experience. Yeah, I've rejected loads for lots of different reasons. And it's not like it stops happening as you get older, or the more books you write, people still reject you for different sorts of reasons. But I suppose I have got more, it's actually more I just don't care anymore about stuff. I don't, you kind of just go, oh, I can't even bother to get worked up about this. I mean, there's certain things I do get worked up about, but I very rarely take that to the internet because, my husband married me, so he gets to hear it all. He gets to,
that's his actual job.
The other day he said something about, when I write my book, and I was like, what do you mean, what book? He was like, about living with a writer. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting one.
He's going to get killed off in the next book.
I'm going to kill my husband off. He's one of the few people I wouldn't kill off no matter what he says to me, unless obviously he leaves me, but he's not going to do that, so she's fine. And also, I think it's sad as well as you get older, because you do realise that people who you thought were on the same path and same beliefs and systems as you, they really show themselves to not be. And that's one of the things that came up from the pandemic a lot, I thought.
Yeah. It's really weird, isn't it? If this time 2 years ago anybody had told us that this is where we would be, just wouldn't believe it.
I remember I saw a meme the other day that I sent to my sister, which said, so in conclusion, nobody in 2015 answered the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years, correctly? Because none of us did we?
Yeah, in the spare room. Yeah.
I know, working from home, adopting 2 crazy dogs. We got 2 Yorkshire Terriers literally before lockdown. The first lockdown happened. We were meant to be getting them in the April, but we could see where things were going. So my husband went up and got them and brought them home, and it was like, so now we've got these 2 dogs. I've never been a fan of dogs, I have to say, and I know everyone will hate me for saying that,
but you got them anyway.
I thought we'd sort of like try and mix up, because it's just been such a sad time with sort of bereavements and stuff. It'd been such a sad time for such a long time. I thought, let's try and change things, the energy with puppy madness. And certainly did that. I've learned a lot. I didn't realise that Yorkshire Terriers were so needy. After this interview, I'll go downstairs and they'll act as though they haven't seen me in 6 years.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're back! Hi!
It's one way to feel loved, I suppose.
Absolutely. But, when it's at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, God. Though somebody tweeted the other day, about their cats. They felt the same relief when the cat slept through the night as they had with the toddler.
I swear.
And I've never had a toddler, but I feel like that about the cat.
We've got two of them. The bigger one, she doesn't bark to go out. She doesn't bark for food. But the little one, who's very cute, if she wants anything, she's like, I want food. She just comes standing, want food, bark, 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 until we get her food. Then she'll go and stand in front of my husband. She'll stand in front of him and bark at him until he takes her for a walk. She'll go stand by the back door and bark until we let her out for a wee. She's just like, she won't stop. And then in the middle of the night, she'll go, I want to go out for a wee. So 1 o'clock, say, she'll bark. And then 3 o'clock, she'll go, oh, so what are you doing? You want to come and talk to me? And so at one point, my husband was sleeping on the sofa every night with the dogs. And it was like, this isn't right.
This is not right.
It's not right.
Well, you and I are both those people the Pope doesn't approve of.
Oh, God, yeah, I saw that. I was like, you round your cage. Just give people a break. And literally, what is it to him? What is it to him?
Yeah, childless man.
Well, yes,
yeah.
Are you...
By choice.
Are people asking you to babysit all the time? Are people asking to dog sit all the time? So what is it to you?
I love that your dogs have a starring role, and I know what you did.
I know. They had to make an appearance, bless them. Well, my dogs are called Fufu and Jollof, which is 2 Ghanaian dishes, and in the book they're called Yam and Okra, which is another 2.
Equally brilliant.
I know, but I did like putting them in the book because they are very much similar to my dogs.
Omnipresent.
Yeah.
But your dogs are allowed upstairs, though?
No.
They
bark until we come down. Yeah, no, I couldn't have that. No, I couldn't.
You've written a really brilliant array of midlife characters, I think, in I Know What You've Done. There's so many female characters who were like in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Did you set out to do that, or did you just write?
I just wrote, but a lot of my books, a lot of my characters, you can see, I know this is on podcast, but a lot of my characters in the books behind me, the covers behind me, they kind of are similar ages to me, so they kind of...
Oh, so they've grown up with you.
They kind of grown up with me, yeah. So, and I don't really have the experience of being in my 30s now in this day and age. So
yeah,
it's harder. That's not impossible, but it's harder to write it. So, and I want to read books about people sort of similar ages as me. Obviously, I'm nothing like any of the characters in that book.
Of course not.
Apart from having the 2 Yorkshire Terriers. But no, I just wrote. And it is mentioned a couple of times that, particularly for Bryony, who kind of feels like her life has been unfulfilled because she married this guy who she loved. And she loved him because he would take charge. And as time's gone on, she's realised that she's just been sold a dud.
Yeah, we can't spoil her, but no, you do that really well.
And Priscilla as well, another woman who's in her 50s, who's kind of been there, done that, but also not downtrodden. She's kind of very much in charge of her own destiny. And again, can't spoil that, but, she has an exciting type of life. And
but without spoiling, I just want to thank you so much for mentioning her grey and black pubic hair. I don't think I've ever read a novel where anybody's actually ever referred to that. Yes, I was like, yes.
But it does, doesn't it? It goes grey down there.
Of course.
Yes. So, that's quite funny. I wasn't expecting you to say that. I thought you guys mentioned the sex and stuff, but no, okay.
Well, yeah, no, she has pretty good sex.
Yeah, I know.
As well. It really struck me when I was reading it. It's not the thrust of pun not intended, of the story at all. But when I was interviewing women for The Shift, so many of the same concerns, like, they're bored and they want something for some of them, want something for them finally, and they have like variable body image, and there's all that you should have grown out of that and you haven't. And I really love when Bryony said that Alana, who's another character of that sort of age, like Priscilla, is doing her 50s so much better than me, because I think I really feel conscious of that when I talk about how much I do love being in my 50s. It's not like an obligation. It's just I personally like being in my 50s. It doesn't mean you have to.
You have to enjoy it or want to or not want to change yourself or whatever. But yes, I wanted to write about women who were comfortable with who they were. And for Bryony, her not doing her 50s as well is based mainly on her marriage and her very dodgy husband. But she's kind of finding herself through the course of the book as she's finding out who she is. And Yeah, and I wanted to write about people who, for body image isn't, and their existence isn't in question, as it were. Who they are isn't in question. It's just everything else around them, with the attempted murder on their street, that affects them rather than how they are constantly not good enough. I want to write books about women who are good enough, and it's everyone else who has an issue with them rather than them having a constant issue with themselves. There are lots of other books like that out there, and I do enjoy reading them, and people are very welcome to write them. I try not to write them as much, if that makes sense.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so I like my cast of characters, my older characters, because they are all a bit older as well. So
I was kind of quite a way through when I suddenly realised that was the baseline, actually, that it wasn't just like, quite often you read a book where there's one slung in who's in her 50s.
Yeah. And who's having a hard time.
Measure,
having a hard time. Yeah. And everyone feels a bit piteous towards her. They're kind of like, oh, let's pity her because she's a bit downtrodden. And that's not what my books are about. I want them to be about women who are older and fine. And everything else is what's wrong, not them.
Yeah. Do you feel like the representation of older women and older Black women and older women of colour has got better in the media and on TV and movies, or is there like work to do, or both?
I think there's work to do. It's getting better. I don't know. I'm trying to think of anything that I've seen recently that seems to be real representation. I can't think of anything that seems to be real representation for me, but it can always get better. There's this whole wave and this whole movement of people who think that the world is far too diverse and opened up and there's far too much equality out there. We need to sort of stamp on it, and it's wrong, and how dare you kind of care about anybody who isn't you. But there isn't anywhere near the representation that there should be. And this is one of the things I try and tell people about writing. Your story is just as important as someone else's. That's why more people should be published. As many people as possible should be published, because we need to hear other stories. We need to hear not the same story all the time. We need to hear from people who live other lives. And it's really sad that it's only one at a time almost. It's like one in, one out almost.
Yeah, and we've got one.
Yeah, exactly. Tick. And I know lots of people have heard over the years, oh, we've got Dorothy Koomson, we don't need you. Or there's Dorothy Koomson's doing that. And it's like other people could tell stories. Other Black women could write stories like I write stories. Other women of colour can write stories that are similar or different. The world is full of different people, so it should be full of these types of stories. And not just that, older women or disabled people, all sorts of things. There are so many people out there with stories to tell that we aren't hearing. And it's sad. It's not fair, I don't think. They work just as hard as anybody else and they try as hard. And I know I've been fortunate, but as I said, I was fortunate. I say fortunate rather than lucky, because lucky sounds like it was just handed to me, and it was never. Nothing has ever been handed to me. I've been fortunate in that I've encountered people at certain points who want to publish what I write, and people have bought it. With regards to kind of other people, you just kind of miss an editor. And what happened is one editor will leave a publishing house, and then that kind of starts a whole cycle of everyone moving and leaving and going elsewhere. And I was fortunate that with my third book, an editor had come over to cover maternity leave. And when my book was sent to her, she really liked it, and so she bought it. And that was, the stars aligned. Yeah. But lots of other people rejected that book for various reasons, and, has been manipulative and whatever, this and this about the book.
Would that be the one that sold 500,000 copies?
That's the one, yes.
Yeah.
That's the one, yeah.
Well, yeah, good timing and all of that as well. But I'll tell you, the first time that I ever interview a middle-aged white man who tells me he's fortunate, I'm going to be ringing a lot of people.
Yeah, it's funny. It doesn't happen a lot, does it? It doesn't happen.
I honestly don't think I can think of a single time.
Yeah, I suppose maybe I'm a bit more self-aware, shall we say?
Yeah.
Can you put it like that? More self-awareness? I mean, I was very fortunate that I happened to cross paths with her at that point. Yeah. Maybe I shouldn't say I'm fortunate. Maybe I've forgotten that energy, haven't I? That I'm just going to be bold.
Yeah. It's like one of my favourite things ever that Cheryl Strayed says is, I work damn hard to get this lucky. Yeah. And I think there's, there's timing and all of that. And totally the timing was great that she'd just gone there, but,
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to ask you the questions I always ask, and then I'm going to release you. What's your emotional age?
Probably about 13.
Why 13?
Oh, I don't know. I just remember writing my first book when I was 13, and sometimes I feel like I'm always writing my first book and I'm discovering the whole writing process for the first time. People say to me, well, how do you write a book? And I was like, I don't know. I always feel like I'm doing it for the first time every time I do it, which is great. It's exciting.
Recommend a book. What's a book that you often by other people that you kind of really love?
The dictionary. I love it. I love it. I do love a good dictionary. I think I've got about 7 or 8 dictionaries and about 7 thesauruses in my house. Was it thesaurusi?
Really?
Yeah, I love them. I love dictionaries, and I obviously need them for my job, but I have a lot of dictionaries in this house, yes.
Is one dictionary particularly good? Have you got like a particular make?
Well, I've got the Collins, and I've also got the Oxford Dictionary, and they're big ones. The Collins Thesaurus is over there on the other side of my office, but they're big ones, and they sit there, and I sort of like, boom, they're like big tomes. I love opening them, and I love shutting them. The sound they make is great. So, yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yes.
That's so interesting. What advice would you give younger women?
Live it up. Live it up. Hopefully you won't wait until like my age to start saying the things that you need to say. I know there's that very famous Helen Mirren quote of, I wish I'd told more people to do one when I was in my life. But yeah, live it up and enjoy yourself and be your own best friend, actually. Be your own best friend, because we are the only people we spend every single second of the day with, and we need to be nice to ourselves. We wouldn't treat other people how we treat ourselves sometimes. So be your own best friend and live it up.
That's excellent. Who is your old bird role model?
Oh, maybe the mum from Desmond's, because she was cool.
Oh, she was really cool.
She was cool, and she you could see the long-suffering look on her face a lot of the time when she was trying to get everyone to do the best they could. So, yeah, probably her.
Cool. Okay, what's your superpower?
Oh, my superpower. Well, I think I've got 2. One used to be my memory. That's kind of on the decline with menopause. It's kind of all over the place.
Oh, God, that and COVID. Forget that.
No. Yeah, exactly. I think my other superpower is that I inspire people to do stuff, to follow their heart or to write books or to encourage people. So yeah, maybe I like to support people. So I think that's it.
That's nice. And lastly, how many fucks do you give?
Right now, none. None whatsoever. I know I should really give more, but as I said to you before, you look around and the world is not in a great place. And so now I need to kind of focus on trying to help make the world a better place, but everything else, no, none whatsoever. How many Fs do you give?
Oh, do you know what? Less than I used to and more than I should, I think. I'm a lot better about not caring about what people think of me. And I probably spent about the first 45 years of my life worrying about that. So
I know, sometimes it still creeps in, doesn't it? You kind of go, oh no, it's such a touch. And then I think, actually, no, I don't care anymore. And who's your old bird role model?
Oh, God, so many. My old bird role model from previous episodes of The Shift would be Isabel Allende.
Oh, yeah?
Have you heard that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, add it to your list of things. She's absolutely brilliant. I want to be her when I grow up. And probably this week, Betty White.
Oh, see, Betty White. I've forgotten about Betty. I love Betty White. Do you know, I used to love Golden Girls.
Oh, it's brilliant, wasn't it?
Absolutely hilarious. It was so clever.
Right, okay. We're going to go before you ask me any more questions.
Okay, it's lovely talking to you. Thank you so much.
Right, yeah, lovely to talk to you. Thank you for listening. You can hear a new episode of The Shift each Tuesday on Acast, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you hear, please do rate, review and follow, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback. See you next time.